Good morning, everyone. I'm Pat LOSINSKI. I'm the CEO of the Columbus Metropolitan Library. I want to welcome all of you who are here today. I want to start with a special welcome for some very special guests, some students from Mansion Day School who are here to take part in this event. I'm going to ask that they stand so that we give them a round of applause. We're so glad to have them here today. It is really an honor to have all of you here. This is part of the Columbus Metropolitan Library's celebration for Black History Month. You are all here helping us grow the African American historical collection, and we're excited about that. As you all know, the library serves a very diverse community throughout Central Ohio, and part of our goal is to preserve these rich histories that are in our community so that future generations who are here today will be able to learn about their family roots, their culture, and this rich community that we live in Columbus. Since our kickoff of the African American Historical Collection 1 year ago, almost to the month, we now have over 11,500 images that have been placed in the library's collection. And it's really thanks to our community's commitment to preserving all of those materials for us. We are working on a goal to try to reach 20,000 images by the end of this month. So we have a lot of work in front of us, but I know with your help we can reach that goal. I want to thank the advisory committee, and I'm going to ask that you stand as I call your name. Hold your applause for just one moment. Tina Butler, and Tom Dillard, I see Tom over here, Arnett Howard, Julia Lynn Walker, and of course the late Felix Hoover, for all of the efforts and dedication you have all put forth to make this project a success. So join me in thanking them. I also want to thank all of the individuals and organizations that have contributed to the collection, and especially to KEISHA Gibbs, our Martin Luther King branch manager, who has also been serving as the project manager for the African American Historical Collection. And it would never be possible without KEISHA's great leadership. And thank you. We count on her not only on this project, but she does such a wonderful job for us at the Martin Luther King branch. So with that, let's ask KEISHA to come up and move forward with our program.
Good morning. Thank you so much for everybody coming out. We're so excited to celebrate the success of this project. Preserving the history of African Americans in Columbus is so important and so timely. I'm so excited that we have Mansion Day students here today and so many people from the community here to help celebrate in this event. The devotion to preserving history has really helped to make this project a success. I also would like to thank those that are exhibiting pieces here as well today. Arnett Howard, the Ohio Historical Society, and Kojo is also exhibiting some pieces here today. So thank you for that as well. Well, we're going to kick off the event with acknowledging some students who won our Black History Month contest. We thought that it would be fun for our writing contest to connect it to the African American collection. So what the kids had to do, they had to go into the collection and they had to select a photo, and then they had to come up with their own unique narrative about the photo. And let me tell you, they really did an awesome job, and it was a difficult decision to decide who our winners were going to be. So we actually have a girl winner and we have a boy winner, and they have some special prizes they're going to get. So for the girl, she's going to get an Addie doll along with an Addie book, because as librarians, you're not going to get a toy without a book. And for our boy winner, he's going to get a Tuskegee Airmen doll and also a book about Tuskegee Airmen. So if I can please have Kennedy Gilliam please come up front. Kennedy is our female winner. And Kennedy's narrative is entitled The Library. And I know that this is putting her on the spot. I don't know, Kennedy, would you want to read it? Do you want me to read it for you? Okay. All right. There's your version. Thank you. Congratulations. Okay. It's called The Library. Uh-oh, there's your book. Bobby Joe was a little girl who loved books. She would read every day. Good girl. Bobby Joe lived in Columbus, Ohio. She lived with her mother, father, brother, and sister. Her brother and sister were older than her. She would spend all of her allowance on books, but she wanted money to spend. She had to think of a plan. Plan 1 was to take the books from the store and return them after she was done reading them. When the owner spotted her leaving without paying, she couldn't come into the store for a week. Her second plan was to read the book when she was at the store, but she wasn't allowed to read the books in the store. Bobby got kicked out for another week. Poor Bobby. Bobby gave up. She just sat on the steps, groaning and frowning. Later that night, she went to sleep. She had a dream. Her dream was about a loom-de-see. Loom-de-see? She didn't know what that was. She walked into this place that was filled with books. She went crazy. Bobby read history, nonfiction, fiction, mysteries, and science fiction. She thought she was in heaven. The people that worked there said that she could take the books and return them in 3 weeks. She was so excited that she woke up from her dream. She had done it. She had created a loom-see, but she didn't want to call it that. Bobby called it a library. She had to get a job to buy a place for a library, but she didn't have enough money to buy lots of books. Her brother gave her an idea to write a letter to the government. The letter stated, "Dear government, I would like to have money to buy books so people could get books and return them in 3 weeks. They would have library cards. The library cards would let them check out a book. There would be a checkout to see if you had a book." From Bobby. 1 year later, she got a letter from the government. The government said, "We think this is a great idea. We need more than one. There will be libraries all over the world. We will send the money in 5 months. That's quick. Bobby got the money and ordered all the books she needed. 28 years later, she said, "Stick to what you're doing and never give up." And that was Kennedy's letter. And she actually took a picture from the Ohio State News, and she based it on the young lady that was on the cover from the Ohio State News. And I think that she did an excellent job. Let's give her a round of applause. And our winner for the boys, I hear, isn't here today, but I know somebody else is going to come up and accept it for it. So the winner is Kenneth Golbrith. And Jakai, you're going to come and accept it? You'll take it for him. That's so sweet. Did you want to read it for him? Or do you want me to read it?
You can read it.
I can read it? Okay. I thought so. Now this one has an interesting title. It's Arnett Howard, the great laser trumpet player. Oh, you didn't even know Arnett. Yeah, it's a good one, too. Arnett Howard was a great trumpet player. Every day he practiced his notes. When he played, jazzy notes came out his trumpet. He matched his jazzy notes with his all-black suit and brimmed hat. One day Arnett was practicing and started coughing. Oh no. He went to go see Dr. Vernon, who gave him an x-ray. What he found was shocking. Dr. Vernon found a bug on his heart. It was a heart bug. A heart bug is an insect that feeds off the heart. If the heart bug is not treated, it might kill you. Uh-oh. Hearing this news made Arnett feel sad. Arnett asked Dr. Vernon if there was anything he could do. Dr. Vernon said, "The only way to save yourself is to travel into the future to kill the bug." Arnett decided to travel to the future and save himself. Arnett goes through a time portal and ends up in the future in Dr. Vernon's office. Arnett tells Dr. Vernon what has happened to him, and Dr. Vernon tells Arnett that he has a solution. Dr. Vernon has a laser trumpet. He tells Arnett how to use it. Arnett plays the laser trumpet. Colorful notes come out and into his heart. The notes hit the heart bug and kill it. Arnett is healed and he jumps back through the time portal. When he gets back to the present, he thanks Dr. Vernon. Now Arnett can play his trumpet for the rest of his life. when you see the image, you see there is some electricity that's going through with that trumpet playing. So that was our winner for our boys. So this just proves how the collection can be used as an education piece. It also can be used as a research tool. And I think that it's great how the students were able to make those stories come to life through a picture. So awesome job. Let's just give them another round of applause. And speaking of having history come to life, we have Anthony Gibbs, who's going to offer a historic portrayal of Granville T. Woods, who is from Columbus, Ohio.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Granville T. Woods. I was born here in Columbus on April 23rd, 1856. When I was growing up, James P. Poindexter was just beginning to be the pastor, Second Baptist Church. Now I have the Woods Railway Telegraph Company in Cincinnati, Ohio. My brother Leades and I opened this business in 1884. Just recently, I received a patent for my invention of the multiplex railway telegraph. This invention allows messages to be sent from moving trains and railway stations. Imagine a train running ahead of schedule and the nearest railway station not prepared for its early arrival. Or worse, a train having fatal problems with its brakes. This communication between the train and station will save lives. It gives time to diagnose problems and prevent accidents and tragedies. Now, I've had some experience in the railroad industry. When I was born here in Columbus, as a boy growing up, I was trained as a machinist and a blacksmith. In 1872, I began working for the Danville and Southern Railroad in Missouri as a fireman. I worked my way up to engineer. Later, I moved to Springfield, Illinois, taking electronics and engineering courses when I could. You see, I always knew that education was important. Of course, when growing up, everyone didn't attend school for most of their childhood. I attended school until I was 10 years old. But then I began to train myself and become a worker and with a machinist and a blacksmith. I took the time to be an apprentice and learn what they were doing, but I knew I needed more education. And so when I finally got to Springfield, I was able to take some electronics and some engineering courses. So in 1878, I took a job working on the British steamer Ironsides, and I became the chief engineer of that steamer. Now, I have to say, being a Negro made it difficult for me to gain any further promotion. Even though I had a knack for electronics, I had some education, I had the required expertise, I still found greater opportunities closed to me and others of my color. So in 1880, I moved to Cincinnati and sought further opportunities in the railroad industry. As an electrician, I invented 15 appliances for electrified railways. My first patent was for a steam boiler furnace in 1884. My brother and I started the Woods Railway Telegraph Company in the same year, seeking to make our own way in this industry. I am sure you all are aware that it was here that I developed a telegraphony, which allows a telegraph station to send voice and telegraph messages over a single wire. By selling that invention to the American Bell Telephone Company, I've gained the time and financing to work on greater developments for the industry. Now, since I've been doing things such as that, I know you've all have heard about the lawsuits against me, especially the ones by Thomas Edison. And there were others as well, all due to the success of my telegraphony. But of course, I won each of those frivolous suits. Now, of course, I know Mr. Edison is pretty popular around here. And for his part, he did offer me a partnership in one of his business. He figured if he couldn't beat me, then he would rather me join his team. But I told him that I believe I would do much better and achieve more for the field on my own. In the near future, I'm looking to relocate to New York City to expand on my subway and trolley electrical inventions. There's a quick summary about me. I'll be here at the end of the programs if anyone has any questions for me or want to know any about more of the inventions that I've had, I'll be able to share those with you. I thank you for inviting me to this historic gathering of history here in Columbus.
So along with history and preserving history, we also have been going out into neighborhood groups and reaching out to people in the community to get them to add their collections as well. So this next speaker who's going to come forward is Sandra Jamison. And Sandra Jamison is a historian from Second Baptist Church. And we had a great partnership with Second Baptist Church and went out and we scanned, I think, nearly 200 items and added those to our collections. And we learned a lot, because they even have their own heritage room and a heritage festival every year. So they make history alive every year for us. So here's Sandra Jamison.
The history of Second Baptist has been documented in several publications, but during the 1970s, a history committee within the church was formed. My mother, along with Mr. Eldon Ward, Helen Davis, Earl Hood, and a few others, formed the committee. So I am sort of a descendant of that original committee after my mother's death. We began having an old-fashioned day, and during and after church service, then there were cultural arts displays that were brought in. And eventually we formed the Heritage Committee with a festival, usually the last Saturday in September. This September, it will be our 30th annual Heritage Celebration, and you're all invited, 10 to 3. In February, the Heritage Committee also participates in the programs we have at each of the 4 Sundays in February between Sunday school and church service. And I share the Black history and church history and information, news, and artifacts. Years ago, the Ohio Historical Museum sponsored a preservation class for churches, and other groups and organizations that have assisted me to preserve, add to our collections are the Ohio Historical Archive Division, the Ohio State Library, Columbus Historical Society, the Franklin County Historical and Genealogy Society, the African American Interest Group that is within that, and Franklin County. And of course, this main Columbus Library and their wonderful staff have helped me. My personal interest in preserving began as a child while playing in my maternal grandmother's attic. School papers and books that had belonged to my mother and her sister were there, along with all sorts of items from my grandparents. But the Grove Street and surrounding neighborhood was taken by the Route 71 freeway. Without a family car, there was little that I could salvage when they started cleaning out the house, starting from the 3rd floor attic and down. My grandmother had to rent a home until the purchase of another had been secured. By the time of my grandmother's death, and the ill health of my aunt, I had attended many antique shows around town to know what was an antique or collectible. There were still some boxes in the basement that had to remain from the other move, so I was able to keep more family memorabilia. As an only child, there were many more treasures to keep after my mother's death. Many collectibles I have given to the Wilberforce Museum, my church heritage room, the Columbus Historical Society, and church and local information here at the main library. One thing I'd like to share and encourage you, this piece of paper here, actually 2 pieces. This is the memorabilia from my mother, and it was a peace declamation contest. So this is a copy of that paper in my collection, and also the program from that time. And as you see, it's in a sleeve. This is called an archival acetate sleeve. So when you go through your things and see that you have something that's very important to you, when you bring it here to scan, they're not going to keep it. They're going to give it back to you. So go through your things carefully before you throw anything out. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. Thank you. And I mean, she has all kinds of treasures in her room. If you go onto the collection, you can actually search under Second Baptist Church, or you can search under Sandra Jamison, because anytime anybody contributes things, we also put the contributor's name on there. So you can search in that way as well. So our next speaker is Edward Morast, and he's the president of the Tuskegee Airmen Ohio Memorial Chapter. And Ed is a lot of fun. They came out to our event last year, and they also have contributed things to the collection as well. So come on, Ed.
On behalf of Tuskegee Airmen Incorporated and its 56 chapters throughout the United States, it's an honor for me to be here representing that organization this morning. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Tuskegee Airmen, about their stay here in Columbus. I know you all know the Tuskegee Airmen history, the challenges they all faced, but they had some challenges here in Columbus too. They came here in 1946 and left in 1949. And in the time that they were here, Benjamin O. Davis Jr. was their commander at Lockbourne, and that is have a distinction of being the only black Air Force base in the history of the United States, simply because it was commanded by Davis. Now, while they were here, they had to find some place to live. Some of them lived on base, others lived out in Hartsford Village, some lived in Pondexter. I had the fortune of being able to talk to Ms. Sawyer. I know many of you may know her. She's been around here a long time. I think she's 98 years old now. And she was telling me about some of the challenges they faced and how she went and visited people and talked about raising the children and the challenges they faced here. So that's rich history. And what we're trying to do now is build an education center out at Reckenbacker. And the Tuskegee Airmen, the success that they had was based on education. All of the pilots had to have at least, well, in the United States Air Force at that time, you had, whether you was black or white, you had to have at least 2 years of college. So these guys, they went in, did the duty, did what they had to do, but many of them got out right here. And what they did is they took the education program, which was 100% at that time, and went on and finished the education. They became doctors, lawyers, and other professionals. And a lot of that happened right here in Columbus. So I'm sure that you probably know some of the guys that got out here and worked here in Columbus. But what we're trying to do is continue that legacy through education. And we have, with KEISHA here, we've been working with the libraries, doing some digital images for them. And I just got them toured this morning. But some of that history is really rich. So hopefully it'll be able to get out in the library. You can come in and see some of it and talk about it. And we're going to continue to work with the libraries because the pilot program that we're going to be starting is going to be dealing with young kids. And what we want to do is be able to reach out to them and have a program that they can come through from, say, 6th grade through high school. And the library is going to play a big role in that. I know before we're going to start that is out in Driving Park. And it's a new library they're building over there. And I'm sure that we're going to be able to use that. So I'm not going to get into too much of the overall history of the Tuskegee Airmen. I just wanted to talk a little bit about what was going on here in Columbus. So if you have any questions or want to contact me, you can get me at www.tuskegeeairmenomc.com. Thank you for having me this morning.
So those were two examples of people that we have already partnered with for the collection. And there are some images that are already online for the Tuskegee Airmen, so you can go on and just search Tuskegee Airmen. It's really simple. So you can go on and put that search term in. So our next speaker that we have is Miss Vesta Daniel, and she's a professor emeritus from the Ohio State University. Vesta's area of research is in the area of community-based art education, which is focused on issues of diversity and resistance in education. So she is the perfect person to come up here and help get us excited to kickstart our goal of getting 20,000 items in our collection. So please help me in welcoming Vesta.
I'm so excited about what you're doing with this collection. I cannot tell you. I'm also excited about the fact that I'm retired. I'm happier than I've ever been. So this is a nice next step for me, so thank you for giving me the chance to join you. My background is in visual art and visual arts education. I have used art to teach children and adults for decades, sometimes in the United States and sometimes elsewhere. What I have found is that the world is full of meaningful stories of our past, present, and possible futures, and that the stories that move through time are often accompanied by images. Some friends and colleagues, both nationally and internationally, have compared the prevalence of art in the Columbus African American community to that of the Harlem Renaissance. This Columbus art has given rise to formal and informal collections and a cultural movement. Children and many adults don't know where art comes from and how it affects our lives. As a consequence, the broader view of what can be considered art can reduce the energy needed from community members and public officials to do such things as preserving public art institutions, architecture, and private collections. It is possible for the art of and about Columbus African Americans to help in demystifying the motivations for creating. There exists also the right to claim a more nuanced concept of creativity and how that creativity is related to other forms of inventiveness. Adults, and certainly children, need insight into and experience with how the creative minds of those right around us work and what the evidence of that creativity can look like. We know that art does not always stand still or reside on a wall, pedestal, or shelf. Many cultures understand this and consequently point us to the beauty and wonder of things that we wear, adornment that is specifically for others, things we sit on, carry, play with, work with, meditate, and pray with. This art provides insight into the many ways that we tell our stories, underscoring the reality that African Americans are not members of a monolithic community of similar, indistinguishable persons. Local, folk, and formally trained artists have recorded beliefs as individual and varied as our many narratives and counter-narratives. Housed in private collections can be the missing pieces of fragmented histories preserved in photographs, drawings, prints, paintings, sculptures, sheet music, fabric and fiber work, and furniture. Documentation of these items as part of a permanent archive made available to the public encourages research that can be channeled into many aspects of the school curriculum. One of my personal examples of the interaction of such pieces of information comes from my 9-year-old granddaughter, who is conducting research on General Harriet Tubman, conductor of the Underground Railroad. So, what did she look like? Photo, please. Where did she travel in Ohio? Hand-drawn maps, please. How did she disguise herself and others when she worked as a spy for the Union Army? Artist interpretations, please. And where can I find things that I can look at the Columbus Public Library Archive of African American Art and Artists, please? The art of Columbus African American artists holds forth in local architecture, private collections, local community-based art, such as the Kwanzaa Playground, folk art, the wonders that are Elijah Pierce and Amina Robinson, among other well-known, internationally admired artists from Columbus. The first African American art gallery in Columbus, the Ace Gallery. Historical images from Valentine photos, Kojo Kamau photos, street art, artists who are also academics, and artists who are community workers. Columbus African American art continues to be the subject of student and scholarly research, which I believe will increase as the breadth of the library's archives widens. So, why not do what the Harlem Renaissance did? Tell many stories through art, provide evidence of lives worth recording, make clear how our art has influenced and is connected to the art of the world, and romance interested others from near and far into studying and supporting a living and influential entity that documents the complexity of Columbus life, aesthetics, civic life, cultural, spiritual, and familial life. Thanks for the chance to chat with you this morning.
Thank you. Thank you again for coming out. I also wanted to acknowledge our advisory committee again. Just the information and the value of sitting down at the table with these individuals has just been so wonderful and valuable. We really appreciate the hard work that they put in. And also to mention Felix Hoover again. He was a wonderful journalist that was known not only in Columbus, but it also expanded outside of Columbus. And he was a great addition to our team. And we do miss him, but we do value the information and the insight that he was able to provide with us in the time that he was here and on the committee. And we also would like to acknowledge the people on our project team, Angela O'Neill, Cheryl Owens, and Aaron O'Donovan, and Julie Theodo also served on our project team here at CML. We've been putting in a lot of hard work, and we also want to thank and recognize everybody in the community that's come out today, people who have called, people that have come in and shared pieces of their history and their treasure. So for those people that brought things today, we have scanning available today. We also have our drop-off locations at the Martin Luther King branch, the Linden branch, and also at the main branch as well. Those are all locations that you can come out and drop off collections. We'll scan them, keep them safe, and get them right back to you. So I just want to encourage everybody to continue to help support this project. And if you don't have something, tell your family and tell your friends and encourage them to go look online and find out about the history and the great accomplishments of the African Americans in Columbus.